Diocese ng Balanga, lahat ng parokya, halinang sumamba, magpuri sa Kanya, magkapit-isip, magsama-sama, harapin ang bukas ngayon. Ito ang pagsamo ng bayan sa'yo, muling ialay ang pangarap sa'yo. Sa mahabang panahon at maraming taon.
Welcome to San Miguel Archangel Parish in Orion, Bataan. Alam niyo si San Miguel Archangel ay panlaban sa COVID-19 sapagkat siya ang laging tinatawagan pamuksa sa kalaban kay Lucifer, sa mga masamang espiritu, ang masamang salot. Pero minsan yung kanyang espada ay pwede rin maging pangkusina. Kasi nga ay kailangan natin magkaroon ng mga gawain sa loob ng tahanan na magiging mabunga at maaari pagmulan ng kita, no? Kaya sa umagang ito, meron tayong mga gatas ng kalabaw at mamaya sa second episode ay mga pinya naman para makatulong sa kasalukuyang kalagayan ng ating buong mundo sa salot na ito, ang COVID-19. At meron tayong ngayon dalubhasa na isang pari, Comboni Priest, Father Pierpaolo Monella, mula sa Bergamo, Italy, na ngayon ay nag-aaral ng Tagalog sa ating parokya ng San Miguel Archangel, nagdalubhasa sa paggawa ng keso. Pero hindi kesong puti, no? Hindi masabaw na keso, kundi kesong matigas galing sa Italy, out of Carabao milk. Sa mamaya, sa part 2, ay sa mga pinya na laganap ngayon para sa pinya jam. So ngayon po, meron tayong pari na marunong sa pagluluto, si Father Pierpaolo Monella, Controlling Missionary.
Okay. Thank you to all of you and good morning. And this moment when we will be trying to learn something that we can do with the fantastic Carabao milk that we have in this area of Orion. That's why I thought the cheese could be called Orion Carabao cheese, because it is from the local area, the local farmer. So the first point I would like to show is the ingredients that we need to prepare this cheese. Very simple, there are 3 ingredients only. The first here we have, I put 5 bottles of Carabao milk, and this is a quantity that is fair enough to produce a cheese around 300-350 grams of cheese, which is, we will see the result is fair enough. Then we have vinegar. Also here we can use what is produced here, what we call it sukan sasa, because it is produced from the nipa palm and we don't need to buy anything artificial if we want. Otherwise you will have to buy this vinegar, which is a little bit acetic acid, but it's also okay. And then the third ingredient is just salt. For 5 bottles of milk, we may need of this vinegar around 50-60 cc. Now I will show you afterwards. And in terms of salt, around at the beginning 1 tablespoon of salt. But then we are going to see in the second part, or better in the last part, when we have to check if we need to add some more salt. But this regarding the 3 ingredients. Now let us go to look at the utensils that are needed in order to prepare this cheese. So first of all, we need a saucepan or a pot that has at the bottom a bit thick, not too thin. Then a spoon, plastic spoon or the wooden spoon, according to what you have. Then we have a chopping board, a small, we will need it or afterwards at the end. Then a measuring cup. As I said before, we need around 50-60 cc of vinegar, so here you can measure it adequately. Then we have a skimmer or the mesh skimmer, and now we come to the piece of cloth, the ketchup. When you use this ketchup for the first time, you need to be very careful. Namely, you need to, first of all, sterilize it in boiling water. You need to boil it so that we can be sure that it is a bit clear from bacteria and so on. But then, after you have boiled it, you need to put it again and boil it again in water, vinegar and salt. Why this? In order to take away all smell or the taste that could be there. Then what we need is a plastic container. The plastic container needs to have some holes, and you will understand why. Because the liquid, the water needs to go through it. Then, for the plastic container, you need also a lid or the plastic plate, small, that fits into the container, because we need to press afterwards. You will see in the second part when you need to press the cheese that is inside. And then to press, to squeeze this part, I use like for example stone mortar, which is heavy. We are going to place it on the top and you will see how it works. Then we need a plate, a flat plate, you will see also how. Then another saucepan or a bowl to collect the milk at a certain stage. Then a plastic container or the cup and a spoon. This is basically all the utensils that you need during the preparation of the cheese. Now we start with the preparation of the cheese itself. And we take our saucepan and we are going to pour the milk in the saucepan. Something to be said regarding this is that if you are sure that the milk is clean, then you can boil it directly. Otherwise, you better use a strainer to make sure that there are not some particles inside the milk. Now we have come to the moment of boiling the milk, the Carabao milk. So now we pour the 5 bottles of milk. So now we start boiling the milk. Need to make sure, as we already certainly know, that when you boil the milk, you need to keep stirring and making sure that it doesn't get burned at the bottom. When it starts boiling, we keep it at the boiling temperature for about half a minute, to make sure that it's properly sterilized, the milk, and then we switch it off and we allow the milk to cool down for a few minutes, so that we can remove the cream before we move to the phase of the cheese. The cream, you will see, it is quite consistent and good if you want to spread it on the bread or to use it to add flavor to some of your best cakes. So now, after having waited for some time for the milk to cool down, we are going to skim a bit the cream that is on the top of the milk. The quantity of cream depends on the milk you receive. At times it has more cream, at times it has less. This time, for example, is not that much, but it's always better to remove it, because otherwise when we prepare the cheese, it will be lost. Now, more or less, the little cream that was there has been removed. And what we are going to do now, because the saucepan that we use to prepare the cheese needs to have a bottom that is a bit thicker, and we only have in this case one saucepan, I'm going to pour the milk in this container. It could be a saucepan, it could be a bowl, and then I wash this and we use the same container to prepare the cheese. Now it comes to the most delicate moment. What I'm going to do is to switch on the flame and start warming up the saucepan without anything inside, so that the bottom becomes very hot. So now at this stage we put on the flame. And in the saucepan, as I said, there is nothing. And while the saucepan gets hot, we will have, just after a couple of seconds, a test on the bottom to see that it is very hot. And wait just a few seconds so that you have an idea also of the time it takes. And then, to have the test of the temperature, you just pour, after maybe now it's already half a minute or so, just a drop. You see, that is a sign that is already quite hot. Just wait a couple of seconds. And what I'm going to do, you will see, is to pour the vinegar quickly and then immediately the milk. Yeah, and at this stage, because of the temperature and the presence of the vinegar, just to let it heat out a moment, and then the milk will start curdling. I repeat what I said before. You have to be very quick in pouring the vinegar and then the milk. You see, now we need to warm up, continue warming up until the white part separates from the rest. You see the water that remains starts becoming a bit yellowish. Do you see already the difference between the part that is curdled and the part that... Here you have a bit of an idea so that you can already see. Now, you see that now the color has changed. It's no longer white. The white part is the curdled one, and the water is a bit yellowish. Yes, it takes, we need to warm it up a bit more to make sure that the water that remains is almost transparent. It means everything that had to curd has curdled. Because if you remove it too early, you may lose something from the curdling. And keep stirring, because the flame is a bit high. I will show you also how the water looks like when it is more or less everything is curved. The amount of cheese we are going to have is quite good. As you saw before, the amount of cream is not much this time. But in terms of cheese, we are going to have a good amount. You see that the water has become more yellow compared to the beginning. And now also the part that is curved is a bit harder. So now more or less we are ready to remove it from the flame and to pour it in the... yeah, you see now there is almost nothing. It has curved completely. Okay? Now that it has curved, we switch off the cooker and we can leave it a moment to rest, and in the meantime we prepare the container where we are going to pour the curded milk. So now what we are going to do is to prepare the container that we saw at the beginning. We place the ketchup inside to get a bit the shape of the container, and we bring the curded milk. Now it is the moment of using the skimmer to remove the part that is curded. We try to release it as much as possible the water. We place it inside. Remember, you put the plate underneath to collect the water that may come out. And in order to make sure that we remove the whole of it, we get a container where we are going to pour the water. And we pour also the last part in the container. Now we distribute a bit the curded part in the container, as you can see how it is. And now it is the moment of putting the salt. The salt for a quantity like this, I would start with more or less one spoon of salt, a bit distributed inside the milk. We move a bit also the curded part to make sure that it goes also a bit to the bottom. But about the quantity of salt, we don't need to worry too much now, because tomorrow, when we are going to remove it from the container, we are going to check the amount of salt if we need to add more. Now, as I placed also the salt, now I start pressing it a bit using the spoon. Now, you see the amount of water that is, I pour it here. Okay. I press again a bit more, because most of the water comes out at the beginning, and then it will come out slowly through those holes. This is is a very easy job to do, but make sure that it's uniform. Check also that the cloth is well distributed around the container. Just check, there is a bit more water, see there is something more. Okay. So, at this stage, you have a bit an idea of the amount of cheese. You see, more or less it will be a cheese of this size, about 3 bit more than 3 centimeters, 3-4 centimeters. Now we put something a bit, I don't have the exact measurement, but if you can arrange a lid that, like this one, that could have more or less the measure according to the quantity of cheese. But we can try to put this one again, and we put it on the top, in touch with the cheese. We make sure that the cheese doesn't come out the side, and then we wrap it with the cloth. And this is the moment of placing something heavy on the top of it, so that during this procedure, until tomorrow, when we are going to see when it is removed, it remains under pressure and the cheese get well compacted. Okay? And that is in terms of this, the preparation of the cheese. Now that the important part with the cheese is over, I want to say a few words about this water that we have collected from the curd part. Now, this is a very nutritious drink, and it can be used, can be consumed by us, and in this case what we normally suggest is to add a bit of calamansi, that is what we have, and a bit of sugar according to your taste. What I would advise you, drink little, because it's very nutritious. It has also a lot of protein, and you can adjust. At the beginning it may have a taste that is a bit strange, but you will appreciate according to the sugar and according to the calamansi or that you put, or some lemon. And this is what you can do. If instead it is a taste that you don't like, but for example you are rearing pigs, this is a very nutritious drink for the animals also. So not only for us. So you can choose. If you don't like the taste and you have that, you can. But make sure that you drink, maybe if you want to drink, with maximum a cup like this, because for the stomach is a bit strong. At least when you drink in the first time, because maybe the stomach has never drunk something like this, so the reaction could be a bit. But I can assure you it's very good. So the last words of this moment refers to where to keep this part of the cheese until tomorrow, because it should not be put in the fridge, should remain outside in a place a bit protected maybe from the ants, so make sure that there is a bit of water, but in any case it comes out of the cheese so that the ants don't reach where the cheese is. So now, more or less, as I said, about 24 hours or a bit less to allow the cheese to consolidate. So see you tomorrow, and we will say Bukas Antikim. Now we are back to complete the preparation of the cheese. As we said yesterday, we left the cheese overnight under pressure, we would say, and to dry a bit already. Now, that is the moment of removing it from the container. Here you can see there is a bit of water that came out. Here we can see that it is still a bit wet. And all we have to do now, we remove the piece of cloth. Here we can see also the cover that was put in pressure. Now we use the chopping board as we did the other time, and we turn it like this. So that is the moment. As yesterday we put a certain amount of salt, but it was not the total amount that needs to be put. Now it's the moment of tasting it and to see a bit how much salt we can put. And now I would like to ask to come and taste also. Yeah, Father Perry. We need to add a bit more salt, I suppose, because salts are the taste and helps also in the preservation. So, in terms of salt, now we do in this way, like, and for such a quantity, I would imagine a quantity somehow like this, like almost a teaspoon. We place it on the top. And then we spread it, we make sure that it reaches the various parts of the cheese, so that then it penetrates. The cheese has to remain here for the whole period until it gets a bit more dry. So now we did it in this way on this side. Tomorrow we are simply taking another little plate, you place it, you turn it on the other side, and you place a bit of salt also on the part that is now underneath. By doing this, it is also good because you will notice tomorrow that the chopping board will be a bit wet, because the water has to be released so that the cheese gets compacted and it is more tasty. One thing, in terms of now eating this cheese, we would suggest to wait at least 2 or 3 days to dry a bit. But important thing, from today the cheese has to be placed in the refrigerator, because otherwise with the heat of the environment may become moldy very quickly. Hopefully you will enjoy a very good Carabao cheese from, in this case, from Orion, and wherever you are going to produce it, it will be like this. And let us not forget, it may not be the case here for us, but if you have fresh cow milk, or you may have also some goat milk or the sheep milk, you can follow a similar procedure, and you will have, of course, a different taste for the cheese. And now the last word to Father Perry.
Una ay maraming salamat, Padre Pierpaolo, sa pagkakagawa at pagtuturo ng keso. At tinawag ko po itong Monella cheese because you are the apelyido, family name is Father Pierpaolo Monella. And Monella in Italian means naughty girl. Pero wala siya noon eh. At hindi ito kesong puti. Na karaniwan kapag gatas ng kalabaw, kesong puti, masabaw, na binabalot sa dahon ng saging, madaling masira. Kasi mientras may tubig, madaling masira. Pero pinatuyo niya ito eh. Ano po yung tawag? What's the name in Bergamo? The name,
Well,
native name.
this one we would call it maybe, let's say, in Italian it would be formagella di bufala.
Formagella de
Formagella
bufala.
di bufala.
Pero Monella cheese, quesong Monella. Queso de Monella. De Orion. So, maraming salamat. Natutunan natin to at ibang-iba kaysa sa kesong puti, kesong masabaw. Ngunit ito ay matigas, inaalis ang tubig, na-absorb para mas matagal, for longer shelf life. For how many?
Well, as I said, you better wait for 2 or 3 days at least. But if you have the courage to wait for 1 week, it will be even better. It becomes a bit harder.
But the expiration
Or
lasts longer.
yes, if you keep it in the fridge, it can stay also on.
Baka hindi nga maubos na ito sa isang araw lamang. Marami daw gustong makatikim. And for ordering, wala pa. Kailangan pa natin ng maraming gatas na pinagkaloob sa atin ni Nelly Galicia. Diyan lang sa may Araro. No? Baka may marami ding bagong panganak na kalabaw. Bigyan kami ng gatas. At ang sukang sasa ay nanggaling kay mag-asawang Bobby at Arlene Isip. Ang galing pa sa Morong, ang sukang sasa. Yun yung nagpapa-coagulate nitong keso. At maraming salamat sa kapangyarihan din ni San Miguel Archangel sa kanyang espada na hindi lang pang-atake ng COVID-19 at saka ng pang-sugpo sa masasama. No? Kundi nagiging pang-kusina rin siya. No? At pagbubukas ng durian. Salamat kay Ian Guzman, Christian Guzman, no? Gusto ni Pat. At yes, kasi nga wala pang pinya ngayon. Kaubusan yata eh. Pangbiyak din ng pinya para sa susunod na kabanata ng Monella Jam. Magmula sa pinya. At yung pinagbalatan nito, pinapakuluan ni Father kasi magiging pinya wine. At saka pinya juice. At saka yung pinagsabawan nga pala nito ay ininom ko kahapon, pampalakas yun. Yun yung skim milk with calamansi juice. So, parang milk juice. Kaya walang tapon.
Shall we show also the bottle of the of what we?
Yeah.
Just
for a moment. So maraming natutunan tayo kay Father Pierpaolo, hindi lang pang misyonero, kundi pang kusina pa rin. At saka ito yung mga ginagamit niya doon sa mga Zambia, sa Uganda, para ito daw sa mga mahihirap. Ito.
So that is what we said yesterday. The water that was taken from the cheese, we put some calamansi, some sugar, and we put it in a bottle. Now it has been in the refrigerator. Some of it was already drunk yesterday, and it was delicious. Now when you have it in the bottle, just to see that is the upper part becomes a bit white and it's yellow. Before drinking, all that you have to do is just to shake it a bit, and then it is ready for consumption. Remember, if you want to take it, you need to drink it within 2 or 3 days, because otherwise it becomes a sour. But yesterday it was excellent, and I think today we're going to drink the rest.
So maraming salamat sa unang kabanata ng ating serye ng pagkukusina sa panahon ng COVID-19 na may makatulong sa paglilibang at saka sa baka makatulong para kumita ng pera. Maraming salamat. Magandang araw sa inyong lahat. San Miguel Archangel, mabuhay.
Until next time.
Okay, bye-bye.
Diocese ng Balanga, lahat ng parokya, halinang sumamba, magpuri sa Kanya, magkapit taon at maraming taon, balikan ang kahapon.